You're listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast, where you'll learn about every Jewish topic imaginable in about 10 minutes. Before we jump in, let me make my standard apology. My voice is not a real voice. It's an artificial intelligence voice. And while it can handle a lot of words, Hebrew ones sometimes come out sounding like I swallowed a bagel sideways. So if you hear shidduch turn into shidduch or shidduch, just roll with it and imagine me making a very sheepish face. Today's topic is shidduch, the traditional Jewish matchmaking system. If you thought your dating life was complicated with apps like Tinder, Bumble, or Hinge, imagine instead being introduced to a potential spouse through your aunt, your rabbi, and maybe a well-meaning neighbor who still calls you such a nice boy. Shidduch is less swipe left and more, here's a resume with your future mother-in-law's comments already attached. So sit tight, because we're about to explore a world where love, tradition, spreadsheets, and destiny all come together. The word shidduch comes from Hebrew and means arrangement, which is already a big clue about what's happening here. In traditional Jewish communities, especially Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox circles, dating isn't left up to chance meetings in coffee shops or awkward conversations at synagogue kiddush. Instead, it's a structured process designed to help people find a life partner who shares their values, background, and religious commitment. Think of it like a high-stakes version of LinkedIn, except instead of listing proficient in Excel, you're listing your Torah study habits and the number of siblings you have. Parents, rabbis, and professional matchmakers called shidduchim often facilitate the introductions. And yes, sometimes people still use those old-school paper resumes, complete with photos and family details. It's not about romance at first sight, but about compatibility, stability, and building a family. That may sound old-fashioned to some ears, but for communities that see marriage and family as central religious duties, this structured system makes a lot of sense. Now, before you imagine every shidduch as a dry business meeting where people compare cholesterol numbers and synagogue dues, let's add some humor. In reality, shidduch dating still involves chemistry, awkward silences, and maybe even butterflies in the stomach. The difference is that you're less likely to waste months figuring out whether someone shares your core life goals, because that part is usually clarified up front. It's a bit like watching a Marvel movie. There may be surprises along the way, but you already know the hero will end up saving the world. In the shidduch system, the world is building a Jewish home. Of course, that doesn't mean every date is magical. Sometimes it's more like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, where one person says the wrong thing and everything spirals. But unlike modern dating apps where ghosting is common, the shidduch process generally keeps things polite, structured, and focused on whether two people can realistically spend their lives together. The professional matchmakers, the shidduchim, deserve their own spotlight. They're part Cupid, part LinkedIn recruiter, and part your grandmother who always says, "So when are you getting married already?" A good shidduchim knows the community inside and out, has a mental Rolodex of eligible singles, and can sense whether someone who likes Talmud study at 5 a.m. will mesh with someone who thinks sunrise is an optional concept. Sometimes they get paid for their work. And sometimes it's more of a mitzvah, a religious good deed. But make no mistake, matchmaking is serious business. There are even jokes about shidduchim being like real estate agents. Their job is to find you location, location, location. Except in this case, the location is the perfect spouse. In communities where people take marriage very seriously, having a trained guide through the maze of dating saves time, reduces stress, and helps people find someone truly compatible. That doesn't mean the shidduchim always nails it, but hey, neither does your Netflix recommendation algorithm. The shidduch resume deserves a whole discussion. Imagine you're dating and instead of asking, "What's your favorite pizza topping?" you're handed a one-page document summarizing your education, religious background, family details, and sometimes even your hobbies. It's like applying for grad school, except the program is lifelong marriage with hopefully lots of nakas from kids. These resumes often include references to actual people you can call to vouch for the candidate's character, kind of like Yelp reviews, but hopefully without the one-star rants. Critics joke that résumés reduce people to bullet points, but supporters say it saves everyone time and makes sure you're not wasting months dating someone whose values or goals don't align. It's not about erasing individuality. It's about clarifying the basics so you can spend your actual dates discussing things like whether you both want to live in Israel someday, or if you're team kugel with raisins or kugel without. Those are the real deal breakers.
Ever notice how ads always pop up at the worst moments? When the killer's identity is about to be revealed. During that perfect meditation flow. On Amazon Music, we believe in keeping you in the moment. That's why we've got millions of ad-free podcast episodes, so you can stay completely immersed in every story, every reveal, every breath. Download the Amazon Music app and start listening to your favorite podcasts ad-free, included with Prime.
Of course, there are different styles of shidduch dating depending on the community. In more traditional circles, dating may be brief, sometimes just a few meetings before a decision is made. In more modern Orthodox communities, the process may look more like regular dating, but with an extra dose of intentionality and parental involvement. Some couples go out for weeks or months, and they'll meet in neutral, public places like hotel lobbies or kosher restaurants. Picture a rom-com montage, except instead of quirky indie music, the soundtrack might be klezmer or maybe even Israeli pop. In ultra-Orthodox settings, you might see couples talking in hotel lobbies while their families wait nearby for updates, a bit like a press team waiting for election results. The idea isn't to remove romance, but to put marriage first and romance second. If love grows afterward, fantastic. If it doesn't feel like fireworks, that's okay too, because the foundation of shared values is already strong. Naturally, no system is perfect, and shidduch dating has its critics. Some say it can feel overly pressured, with young people expected to marry quickly before really knowing themselves. Others point out that résumés can emphasize superficial qualities, height, looks, money, just as much as values. And of course, anytime family and community get heavily involved in your love life, you can imagine the sitcom-worthy drama that can follow. Still, many people who met through the shidduch system report being very happy in their marriages. It's not unlike arranged marriage systems in other cultures, where the focus is on family, compatibility, and long-term partnership more than on Hollywood-style passion. And to be fair, modern dating has its own issues. Ghosting, endless swiping, and people who list good vibes as their only personality trait. Shidduch dating is just one way communities try to solve the eternal problem of finding someone you can tolerate even when they leave socks on the floor. Pop culture has had fun with the shidduch world too. Movies, plays, and especially Fiddler on the Roof dramatize the matchmaker's role. Who can forget the song, "Matchmaker, Matchmaker, Make Me a Match"? It captures both the excitement and the anxiety of trusting someone else to help you find love. Modern Jewish comedians also joke about shidduch dating, often comparing it to using dating apps, but with even more judgmental swiping. And yes, there are memes about shidduch résumés floating around the internet. For people outside the community, shidduch might seem quirky or even restrictive, but from the inside, it's often seen as caring, efficient, and deeply tied to religious values. Like any system, it works for some people and not for others. But one thing's for sure, it's never boring. Whether you're the dater, the matchmaker, or the family cheering from the sidelines, it's a process full of stories, lessons, and more than a few awkward first date tales. In recent years, the shidduch system has even gone digital. There are now websites and apps tailored specifically for Orthodox matchmaking. Think of it as Tinder's more religious cousin, except instead of swipe left if you don't like dogs, it's more like swipe left if you don't keep kosher. Some platforms are managed by shidduchim who use technology to keep track of potential matches, while others let singles manage their own profiles, but still within a structured environment. It's a fascinating blend of tradition and modernity, age-old values meeting Silicon Valley coding. And let's be honest, even the most traditional bubbies probably wouldn't mind if a good shidduch came out of a well-designed app. At the end of the day, whether the introduction comes from a matchmaker in Borough Park or a database in the cloud, the goal remains the same: helping people build strong Jewish families. Because while technology changes, the desire for connection, companionship, and continuity doesn't. So, what's the takeaway from all this? Shidduch dating is both ancient and modern, structured and unpredictable, serious and funny all at the same time. It reflects Jewish priorities about family, faith, and community, while also revealing how universal the quest for love really is. Everyone, whether Jewish or not, can relate to the mix of nerves, hope, and occasional disappointment that comes with dating. The Shidduch system just adds its own unique flavor, like sprinkling everything bagel seasoning on the eternal search for a partner. Whether you see it as brilliant, old-fashioned, or simply different, it's one of those Jewish cultural practices that continues to evolve while holding on to its roots. And maybe that's the best way to describe it, like a long-running Netflix series that somehow keeps updating for new seasons without losing the original storyline. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, forward it to a friend who might like it, or leave a positive review so others can find the podcast.